Welcome to Gorilla Sports Off Court. I am your host for today, Liv Moods, and this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. So head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome in, everybody, to another Gorilla Sports Off Court. I am your host for today, Liv Moods, doing a little preview of round 2 for the Denver Nuggets taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder in game 1 tonight, 9:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Eastern Time, meaning 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Let's get into it, shall we? First, we'll talk as a general just playoffs as a whole. The Golden State Warriors will advance and take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I've got a feeling that is going to be a longer series than people anticipate. I think the Timberwolves, yes, young, hungry, Anthony Edwards, that's pretty much all you need, right? But they've also got the depth, they've got the bench. But the Warriors, you just never want to count them out. They had a really hot start to their season. They've added some really great pieces there. Obviously, in Jimmy Butler, you're getting a lot out of those guys. Pajemski is another example of a guy that's kind of a sneaky player. The Warriors have a lot of sneaky players. Steph Curry started really slow in last night's game. I know that because I bet his overs. His threes and 30 plus points, all that, and went into halftime with just 3 points. It felt like it was maybe one of his worst performances when you needed him the most. But then sure enough, towards the end of that game, he figured it out. So the matchups are pretty much set. You've got the Nuggets versus OKC. You've got the Warriors versus the Timberwolves. Out east, we just watched the series start between the Cavs and the Pacers. Pacers taking game 1, and I just saw on my timeline, Evan Mobley is now questionable. We know Darius Garland was out for game 1. Evan Mobley is now questionable. That will make a huge difference, as great as Donovan Mitchell is, and he is great. What makes the Cleveland Cavaliers so special is all of those guys working together in unison. They've been able to develop a really strong chemistry and stay really, really hot all season long. So it'll be interesting. And then the Celtics versus the Knicks. If we're being honest, I don't have a ton of faith in the Knicks. I think that the Celtics go all the way this year. That is my personal opinion. I could be absolutely incorrect on that, but the Celtics are just one of those teams where in the playoffs, you get some really great basketball out of them. They've been hot all season. So I would imagine we get the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then out of that other series, it'll be interesting. I think it kind of depends on the Cleveland Cavaliers' health at this point, given that Evan Mobley is now questionable. And of course, the Western Conference, as we know, has been stacked with talent all season long. It has been very fun to watch how the standings have changed over the course of the season. Outside of OKC, they have looked very different every week. OKC has sat at the top of the Western Conference all season long. But I want to talk specifically about this series for this Denver team. I don't think it's fair for anybody to assume or predict that this will be an easy series win for OKC. Is there a strong chance OKC comes out of this series? Yes, of course. Their season will tell you they are predicted and projected to go all the way based on their season. However, in the regular season, OKC and Denver split those games. They were 2-2. The Denver Nuggets kept a lot of those games pretty competitive until the tail end. We'll talk about who I think is the X factor in that fourth quarter. I think you already know who it's going to be. Both of these teams have MVP candidates in Nikola Jokic and SGA. A lot of people will argue SGA will win MVP, but Nikola Jokic deserved it. Just because you win MVP does not make you the best player in the league. Nikola Jokic is still the best player in the league. One team has experience, the other's young, hungry, and rested. Sometimes being rested doesn't always work in favor of the team with the rest advantage. Is there going to be some rust there that this OKC team has in games 1 and games 2? They've been resting for 9 days now. This Nuggets team just won an incredible basketball game on Saturday. So they've still got a little bit of that momentum that they may be able to channel and carry over into round 2 against OKC. So while, yes, I think most Nuggets fans are a little bit concerned about the fact that the Nuggets do have a rest disadvantage, and mostly I think that concern stems from the fact that the Nuggets have not been entirely healthy this season. They have dealt with their own set of injuries. You've had Aaron Gordon super injured this season. Jokic has dealt with his own injuries, some of which he dealt with against OKC in the regular season. Jamal has dealt with his own. We've got MPJ currently banged up with his shoulder. Russ has dealt with injuries. So all of them have had their fair share. It's been a very trying and mentally exhausting season, to say the least. However, they still have the best player in the world. And I don't think enough people are giving the proper credit to Denver for that one simple reason. And that's just one reason. I think in this last series against the Clippers, we saw a lot of things we liked out of this Denver team. Team wins is what we saw out of Denver. And that's not something that we've been able to confidently say for a long, long time. Why? Because the game plan has always been Nikola Jokic will figure it out. Now we're seeing other guys, the supporting cast, step up and play team basketball. The last time we really saw this Nuggets team playing team basketball was in 2023 when they won a championship. Now, before you get your panties in a wad, I did not just say that I think the Nuggets are winning the championship. Here's what I will say, though. If the Nuggets get past OKC, I think they've got a really stinking good shot. Because what this Nuggets team has proved this season, especially, that they are very, very good at is making adjustments. They had to make adjustments when their coach got fired. They had to make adjustments all season long when different players were injured. We rarely saw the starting 5 that we've seen in the playoffs so far healthy and playing together in the regular season. So they had to make adjustments when new starters were thrown into the mix. We saw adjustments being made in round 1 versus the Clippers. The way in which CB was defending James Harden, the adjustments he made game to game. This team knows how to adjust. So I would not be shocked if game 1 does not work in the favor of the Denver Nuggets. I would not be shocked if game 1 is a little bit of a hot mess. I would not be shocked if there's potentially a blowout by OKC. They blow the wheels right off the Nuggets bus. I would not be shocked by that. However, what would shock me is to see that happen more than once. We saw game 3, right? In the Clippers Nuggets series. We saw game 3 and it got ugly and it got nasty and it got out of control for Denver. But what we also saw is the Nuggets adjust following game 3 and figure it out and get it together and iron out some things so that they could stay alive in that first series. So this Nuggets team knows how to adjust. That is something that I think bodes very well for teams in a playoff spot. Because as hot as OKC was in the regular season, and they were hot, we know that. As hot as they were in the regular season, they also lack playoff experience. We saw last season when a lot of people predicted that they could go all the way. They didn't. They really haven't done a lot on this stage with this team. The playoffs are a different beast. I don't think many people outside of myself and maybe a few others predicted that the Golden State Warriors would upset a young, hungry, exciting, healthy Houston Rockets team. What do you know it? They did. The playoffs are different. Playoff experience matters because making adjustments within 7 games really matters. And this Nuggets team has proved all season long that they know how to make adjustments. That's something I think will work in their favor. Playoff experience, but also the ability to adjust. When you've been coasting at the top comfortably all season long, which they absolutely earned, but when you've been coasting at the top all season long, you don't really have to make a ton of adjustments. You don't have to change much. What you're doing is working, so why change it? If it's not broke, don't fix it. But with this Nuggets team, there's been a lot that's been broke, and they've had to fix it. And I think that's just made them a better basketball team. They adjusted after Malone. They adjusted with different starting lineups almost every single week due to injury. They've made a lot of adjustments. They adjusted in round 1 versus the Clippers in a very highly competitive back and forth series that went all the way to 7 games, OKC hasn't had to adjust because what they've done all season long has worked for them. And guess what? It worked really well for them in round 1 when they swept the Memphis Grizzlies. So the Nuggets have an advantage here of being able to adjust because they've had to do it all season long. The playoffs are about adjusting. You kind of get a feel for the team in game 1. Game 1s are kind of hard to, I don't really think game 1s ever set the tone for the series. They really don't. Because I think both teams are figuring things out, kind of getting warmed. For OKC, they'll be getting warmed up tonight. For the Nuggets, they'll be trying to find their footing, pacing themselves a little bit. They're going to be a little tired. So game 1 to me isn't really super accurate in setting the tone for a series. But because the Nuggets have had to adjust all season, they are going to have the ability to take game 1 for whatever it is. And I am predicting that it's not a super pretty game for Denver in game 1, just due to the rest disadvantage here. But they're going to adjust by game 2. And that's something that they have been really good at all season long, but OKC has not had to worry about very often this season. Adjustments matter. The way in which CB was adjusting versus James Harden, guarding James Harden, defending James Harden, was a difference maker in round 1 for the Nuggets. Because James Harden was their X factor. So CB being able to make adjustments against James Harden made a huge difference for this Nuggets team. Adjustments will matter. We are not going to see perfect basketball right out of the gates from this Denver Nuggets team, who is probably a little tired at this moment. We're not going to see perfect basketball. But we'll see smart basketball because they will be reading OKC that whole game, figuring out where are their weak spots and how do we take advantage of them. The momentum that the Nuggets will hopefully carry over from round 1 to round 2 will be crucial for their performance offensively and defensively. But the high basketball IQ that this Nuggets team possesses will be the difference maker in figuring out how to take down OKC. Because even if the Denver Nuggets are playing their best basketball, OKC playing their best basketball, you don't want that. So the Nuggets are going to have to spend game 1 doing a little bit of observing and learning, figuring out what to do in game 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if that's what it takes, to take down a very hot, young, talented OKC team. Is OKC beatable? Yes, they are. Yep, they are. How confident do I feel in OKC's bigs? Not all that much when you're looking at Nikola Jokic, right? Don't feel overly confident there. I think they lack playoff experience. I don't think that. I know that. I know they lack playoff experience. That will be the edge that Denver has, is Nikola Jokic and playoff experience. That's it. Now, the supporting cast. There are X factors amongst Nikola Jokic that, in my opinion, will be the difference makers. The Nuggets' edge is their playoff experience and Nikola Jokic. But there are X factors on the Nuggets that I think will be the difference makers. One of those I've already mentioned, and that's Christian Braun. The way in which that he guards SGA will be huge. The confidence in his three-point shot will be huge. He had some very timely and clutch threes in round 1, and we need those again. CB will absolutely be an X factor. Huge. He might be the X factor for Denver. The other X factor that I've got is a little bit more specific, and it involves the fourth quarter. And it's fourth quarter Jamal Murray. What kind of a closer is Jamal Murray in this series? That is another X factor. This game, if you really think about the talent on both of these teams and the fact that Nikola Jokic is on the Denver Nuggets and you've got SGA with OKC, 2 MVP candidates, you expect these games to be highly competitive, right? You may get a blowout in game 1 or another one in game 3, whatever the case. You get those sprinkled throughout a series. But for the most part, I think most of us anticipate it will be relatively competitive. Because it's going to be relatively competitive, it may go down to the wire, right? It just might. And that clutch gene we speak of, that playoff Murray basketball that we speak of, will be so exceptionally important in the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter will be huge for Jamal Murray's production. What do you get out of Jamal in the fourth quarter? That is an X factor. How well is CB guarding SGA, and how confident is CB in his three-point shot? That is an X factor. Of course, in a perfect world, I would say Michael Porter Jr. is an X factor because we know how valuable he is. And when he's on, woo, there's really nothing like this Denver Nuggets team. But I'm having a little bit of grace there knowing how injured he really is. I think he's pretty injured. I think he's pretty banged up. I think he's playing through some discomfort right now. So it's going to require his teammates to know that, be on board with that, and say, how do we help out? How do we help out Michael Porter Jr.? Because he's not in full strength and he's not in full health right now. And there may be some elements of his game mentally where he's not super confident. So how do we help that out? That's a question. But those are X factors. Another X factor, and you should have known this was coming, is Russell Westbrook. Can Russell Westbrook continue to build off of what we saw in round 1? Copy and paste it into round 2 and give us that much more, right? He's playing against a former team, a franchise that loves him, fans that still love him, right? Every time I've watched an OKC Nuggets game, OKC fans don't boo Russ. They love Russ. I think if I'm an OKC fan and I'm sitting there going, okay, I want my team to beat the Nuggets because I'm an OKC fan, but damn, it'd be really nice to watch Russ win a ring. Not that there's a guarantee that if the Denver Nuggets advance past this round and take down OKC that they win a ring, but their chances are looking pretty good. Because if you can beat OKC in potentially 7 games, you're sitting in a pretty stinking good spot to win it all. So I can imagine OKC fans everywhere are like, what the hell? This is like my best case scenario and also worst case scenario at the same time. That's neither here nor there. OKC loves Russ. What can Russ bring you that we haven't already seen? That's the question for Russell Westbrook. What we saw in round 1, we loved. Russ himself said it. I'm the type of person that just brings the energy and makes plays. Sometimes those plays are turnovers. Sometimes they're airballed threes, but sometimes it's a dunk. It's 5 steals. It's a clutch 3. You got to take the good with the bad and the bad with the good when it comes to Russell Westbrook. I say this every week, and it's the truth. For everybody all upset that my take is aging like fine wine, let me let you in on a little secret. Let me give you a little nugget, no pun intended, as to why I'm good at my job. I said a hot take with my chest. I never backed down from it. If that take had aged like sour milk, guess what? I would have been the first person to quote tweet it and clown myself. Just keep it honest. It's the best thing you can do in this space is keep it honest. We're not always going to be right. We're not always going to have perfect takes. It's just never going to happen. Own it when you're wrong. And absolutely victory lap the hell out of your own page when you're right. It's very simple. If I would have unpinned that tweet the moment Russ had a bad game this season, how weak would I look right now? That video's staying. That video's permanently on the page until I get a better one. It's the truth. So what do you get from Russell Westbrook in round 2 is going to be huge. You know you're going to get some turnovers. You know you're going to get some missed layups. You know you're going to get that. So don't be upset when you do. You're going to get that. But you're also going to get a lot of really great things that we saw in round 1 because I can't imagine he's slowing down anytime soon. And here's why. Russ is playing for a team that, one, knows how to use him and appreciates what he brings even in bad moments. You have to have that. I also think there's a level of respect that this Nuggets team has for a 17-year vet that has been there, done that, right? Yeah, he doesn't have a ring. Okay. That doesn't automatically erase all the good that a player does in this league if they don't have a ring, by the way. I know we like to think that, but it's just not the case. I think there's respect that this team has for him. I think Russ is capable of being your biggest cheerleader and your toughest critic in the same sentence, but it's because he knows what he wants, and what he wants is to win. That's all he cares about. And I think that has been contagious throughout this team, where they've got that extra layer of grit and energy and hustle that makes it clear to fans that they want to win. Remember how many times last season we were watching the postseason going, they don't care. They just don't care. They could actually care less right now based on their game. That's how it feels. They don't care at all. That wasn't the case, but it's certainly how it looked, right? You bring Russ on board, it doesn't matter what the score is. You're going to get energy out of Russ. He's going to come off of the bench and he's going to deliver. He's going to make plays, whatever that looks like, whether it's rebounding better than anybody out there, or it's big time offensive plays, which we know he's capable of. But more than that, it's just the hustle that he brings. You're going to need hustle against a young, healthy OKC team that is exceptionally rested right now. Russ is going to play like he's got the rest advantage. You know that. That's the level of hustle and energy that he brings. He is the biggest hype man in the NBA, period. There's no competition. This tired Nuggets team is going to need a hype man against a rested OKC team that's young, that's got their sights set on a championship this year. This series is not going to be easy. OKC is a great team. There's no denying that. I do want to take a second to bring up this fact. I talk a lot about the fact that you can't blame NBA officials for how a game turns out. You just can't, right? There's how many different opportunities to compete. There's how many different minutes in a basketball game. You've got ample opportunities to compete, especially when you've got seven games, right? So you can't really blame NBA officials for a loss. I know that. However, it would be very foolish of us not to bring up this fact. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. I think there's a lot of players out there, and I know they've actually spoke about it. Coaches have spoken about it. Players have spoken about the fact that it is hard to defend SGA. And not for the reason you think. Not because he's this MVP standout. You can't stop him. You can't slow him down. You can't breathe on the man without the whistle being blown. So what I worry about just a smidge is, will Christian Braun's confidence be shot in defending SGA because they know that the whistle is on OKC's side? You can try to run from the truth. You can think I'm just being a homer and I'm being a hater. But at the end of the day, there are players and coaches in this league that will share the same exact feeling, which is, what kind of a whistle is SGA going to get? We would be stupid to not talk about this. How early will CB be in foul trouble? Because SGA is throwing himself into defenders and throwing himself to the ground. Let's call it what it is. You can be an OKC fan and still understand that it's pretty obvious what goes on when it comes to SGA and getting to the line, okay? You really hope that in a playoff scenario, the officiating is at least as fair as it can possibly be. We know they are going to make mistakes. NBA officials are not perfect. They're going to mess up. We know this. I don't expect them to be perfect, but I do expect it to be fair. And what I worry about is that this Nuggets team won't be able to stop SGA because they're scared to defend SGA, because if you so much as breathe on SGA, a whistle is blown. That's what I hope we don't see. That being said, what I want the Nuggets to remember, Do not mentally remove yourself from the basketball game, miss defensive stops because you're sitting there trying to plead your case to a ref. Get back in the game, play through the whistle. Do not remove yourself mentally from the basketball game trying to argue with officials. It's not worth it. You'll likely not win that battle. Control what you can control. At the end of the day, the Nuggets cannot control how often the whistle blows in favor of OKC. They can't control that, right? So control what you can control. Start fast. Make your threes. Slow this offense down for OKC. There's plenty of different things that the Denver Nuggets can do to eliminate having to even entertain the conversation of the officiating not being fair. Now, at the end of the day, you just want it to be fair. You just do. We are going to be joined by my friend BK, who is live from OKC. Actually, he is going to be getting us all types of content tonight for game 1 in round 2, Nuggets versus OKC. So let's bring him in really quick and chat with him for a moment. I think, can I get a produce? Yep, there we go. Let's add him in. Hello, BK. How are you?
I'm great. I actually even had, oh, here we go.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Oh, I lost your sound. Now I can't hear you anymore. I had you, but then I lost you. Nope, still can't hear him. He is ready to celebrate Cinco de Mayo, though, so we will bring him back on in just a moment. Is he ready? Okay, he's plugging stuff in, you guys. Someone said stepped on a cable. He stepped on a cable getting his Cinco de Mayo hat. That's what happened. Let's see if we can get him locked back in here. Nope, still not getting BK. Okay, we'll wait just a moment until we've got him and you can actually hear his sound there. But yeah, I think that the officiating is going to be super important. Not just because I'm not saying it's going to be important because it's going to determine the game. However, I think the whistle will absolutely determine the Nuggets' confidence in their defense. That is my concern. If these Denver Nuggets players who are finally starting to feel out their defense and get some of these defensive schemes locked in, because we know it's been a problem for them all season long, and then they breathe on SGA and a whistle is blown, that's a shot at your confidence naturally. So that is my concern. My concern is not, will the whistle determine the game? My concern is, will the whistle mentally affect the Denver Nuggets? Let's bring in BK now, shall we? Let's see if he's ready to go.
Hi.
There you go.
I mean,
now I can, now
hola. I should say hola. When I went to grab my sombrero here to celebrate Cinco de Mayo, I pulled out the mixer that has the mic connected and all that, and
there you
cords
go.
can get a little wonky. I'm sitting, obviously with the court behind me. They're going to hand these things out to the fans.
Oh,
and then
okay.
And t-shirts that say
any word.
OKC, kind of got an old school, like a Run DMC vibe to them.
Yeah, kind of cool. Any word on whether or not the Cronkies bought out the wall and have Nuggets fans flying to OKC for game 1, BK?
No, something tells me we would have caught wind of that.
I agree.
That's a really interesting story, because in the locker room, there were players saying that whoever season tickets those are, they should be removed from the season ticket list or kicked up to the third level. I just think it's really interesting that Steve Ballmer and his staff were able to acquire that many tickets from behind there.
I agree.
And I don't know if the news kind of spread like wildfire that, oh, they're paying X, 3X, 5X of whatever the dollar amount is over what we normally pay. But to make those available and to have them all together was really fascinating. So I'll be curious to see how the Nuggets, if and when they're asked about it on the business side, explain how it happened. But obviously it wasn't, it was a cool thing for Ballmer, cool thing that he chartered a plane for Clippers fans, but ultimately it didn't matter, obviously, because the Nuggets played well enough. This is supposed to be the loudest arena in the league, some people say, but I'll continue to dwell on this until they get smart enough to change it. And it does make sense because it's a smaller arena with only one row of luxury boxes. So there's no club level. It's like lower level. The club level is just right here, right behind me, but no like raised up, and then the top level. And I guess there's some boxes up there too, but that's also like for hockey broadcasting, it looks like. Anyway, they call this place Loud City, but it feels like a total miss to not call it Thunderdome. How would you not call it Thunderdome?
BK, I get they didn't consult you when they were naming it. They should have, though.
Yeah, they definitely should have. So I'll continue to bust on them. Like I worked here a million years ago at the big sports station, the Sports Animal, that's still rocking is the number one team and number one station, and they carry their games. So I'm going to go on with them tomorrow. I'm going to go to their remote broadcast, and I'm going to give them a hard time then as well, and I have on the radio before. Yeah.
As you should. Okay, BK, I talked a little bit about what I think is the X factors and some of the game changers. I will say I started by saying that the edge that I believe that this Nuggets team has is, one, their playoff experience. I think most people share that sentiment. And two, their ability to adjust. Adjusting in a 7-game series is very, very important. We watched them not only do that in round one, but we watched them adjust all season long, actually, when they had a new starting lineup every week and new guys were injured and a coach gets fired. They've had to adjust. That's definitely going to be their edge. But then I talked about X factors. And to me, Christian Braun is one that jumps out, right? How does he defend SGA? How confident is he in his 3-point shot? But BK, who is your X factor for the Denver Nuggets that you think will truly be the game changer for them?
I think it's going to be, it's not necessarily one person, it's the Nuggets bench. And so that certainly includes Russ, but it also includes Peyton Watson. It includes DeAndre Jordan, who I think is going to get minutes opposite of Hartenstein especially when Holmgren's off the floor, when Joker gets his rest. I think we're going to see DJ have to contribute real minutes, and I think that's okay. And then if and when Jalen Pickett's in, if and when Julian Strawther are in, because the Thunder play 10 guys, you don't necessarily have to match that, but you have to be ready that you're going to need the end of your bench. I say the end of your bench, but the middle of your bench a little more than you did in that last series, because the Clippers didn't go that deep either. Coming off the bench, it was Batum. They bailed on Ben Simmons, and then it was either Derek Jones or one of the other wings that they would rotate through. But it wasn't anywhere near as deep as this OKC team is. So I think just the bench contributions. You're absolutely right though about CB, and they've beaten this team twice, including once here. And yes, so they're not scared of SGA. He's just an extremely tough cover because he can get to his spots, and his spots are kind of everywhere, similar to Joker's, although we know where Joker prefer, but kind of anywhere inside the 3-point line. SGA is not a prolific 3-point shooter, but he'll knock one down. So I don't think he'll wilt the way James Harden does and did at times in that series, especially in Game 7 in terms of scoring. And I think Christian had something to do with that. But if you can just make his life hard again and make SGA have to work to get his 30, if you will, because he's going to probably get that. His average is 32. And then I think another X factor is just how big of a scorer can Joker be, because we know that they're probably going to play him with Hartenstein, straight up on him, with Holmgren always lurking, similar to what we saw last year when Minnesota made that adjustment to Cat playing him, bodying him, and then Rudy floating around. I think we'll see some of that. And we didn't see it in every matchup because Hartenstein wasn't healthy in all of them, and maybe Chet even missed one. But we know that's what we think they're going to attack. So it's going to be big for AG too, to be in that dunker spot so that when the double team comes, he can, dish him the ball, whether it's here, around, whatever, or even in the corner. And AG is going to have to be big too. So I think AG's contribution, obviously CB's defense, and then of course what the bench can give you, because you're going to need minutes and you're going to need production from them beyond. We know Russ can obviously put the ball in the basket.
Absolutely. There's a comment here, BK, that's addressed to actually both of us. It says, BK and Liv, you guys have to stop comparing the Clippers to OKC. You have to, LOL, SMH. Here's the deal. I'm certainly not comparing the two, but I've also seen a lot of chatter online, a lot of people saying that they're kind of implying that Clippers was like that wasn't a good team. Like that wasn't an impressive win by Denver. I would argue the Clippers, being one of the hottest teams entering the playoffs, if you can compete with the Clippers through 7 games, I think you can feel pretty confident going into round 2. Doesn't matter who you're facing because the Clippers are a damn good basketball team.
Absolutely. And Joker touched on that Saturday night in his comments in the locker room, saying how hot were they coming in. And he looked down, he's like, we're doing 10 in a row. I was like, well, 18 to 21. He's like, yeah, look at how hot they were. And they were playing really good basketball. And they are a good team who has the second best defense in basketball. Now, OKC has a really good defense as well. And they are kind of nonstop, and they're nonstop pushing the ball the other way because they have 10 guys, and they're nonstop shooting the three. So similar to what you saw with like Cleveland's offense and sometimes Boston's offense, they're going to, other than SGA and I guess obviously Chet and Hartenstein inside, they're going to be firing threes. And we know Jalen Williams, the all-star, can score inside as well. But they get a lot of open threes because SGA is such a ball dominant player, but commands so much attention. And so they aren't the same team, but you did just go through a knockdown drag out fight, and the Thunder cruised. As Jamal said, there may be some rust when I asked him about, them having this much time off. But he also talked about how when they had the week off, and I mentioned this Saturday night in our post game, but when they had the week off before the championship round with the Heat, they came out on fire because they were so revved up and ready to play. And so that could certainly happen. But I'm going to keep saying this. The longer this series goes, the better it is for the Nuggets, because I think the what's get tighter here in Loud City, not Thunderdome, as it gets closer to the end of the series. Game 6 obviously would be in Denver, but if the Nuggets can steal one, maybe steal both, but steal one of these, and then all of a sudden it's definitely a 5-game series. But then what happens at home, and can you extend it and get it to a 6th or a 7th game? That can only favor the Nuggets, assuming they're healthy at that point.
Yeah, I want to one thing here. Only Morale said that OKC has the MVP on their team. You're right, and the Nuggets have the best player in the world on theirs. So MVP does not always mean that you are the best player in the world. And so to that, I say, Only Morale. Yeah, I think the Nuggets have also got something up their sleeve that too many people are kind of talking a little too casually about. Nikola Jokic will do Nikola Jokic things in this series. I think you can almost guarantee it.
Well, and not only that, if I'm not mistaken, at least based on years past, because we've seen obviously a handful of the awards come out, the MVP award is usually announced in the second round. I remember embarrassingly for Dirk Nowitzki, he had to fly to maybe the Bay Area or something because he won his MVP and they got knocked out in the first round. So maybe he came up here. I can't remember where. I guess Oklahoma City may not have even been a team yet. Wherever he went, San Antonio, he had to go to a game that he wasn't even playing in. And so I think that if and when OKC and SGA wins it and he holds up the MVP trophy and all that and has to do his press conference, that's great. But Joker will certainly recognize it. And I understand he says it doesn't matter, but we know how competitive that dude really is and how competitive his teammates are and how much they look at him as the MVP. And the stark contrast of how the team plays for the most part, or how they have played all year when he's not been on the court, is, enough of an indicator right there. And he's also had the best statistical season we've ever seen. He's also averaging a triple-double in the playoffs. And up until his points dropped off, he was leading the entire playoff bracket across the board in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and one other category where he was first. And I think he's first in all those still, except points. Maybe he's second.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 more things for you, BK. Of course, putting you on the spot and making you give your prediction for tonight's game has to happen. But before then, one of the concerns that I have, and it feels like it would be foolish to not talk about it, I had mentioned that the officiating is something that I think draws concern, and not necessarily because I'm going to sit here and say that the whistle will determine the game, but we do know that there is a favorable whistle to SGA. And what we also know is that when you're a defender and you feel like you can't even breathe or look at another player without them getting a favorable call, there may be some confidence issues that this Nuggets team has in their defense, which is something that they've struggled with all season, but have finally started to find a little bit of rhythm on. What do you say to my concern, which is the favorable whistle for SGA going to affect the Denver Nuggets' confidence in the defensive schemes that they've started to commit to?
I think that you always have to just be aware of it when you've got a guy that's so good at getting to the basket and getting that whistle. But James Harden's maybe the best to ever do it. It's certainly in the modern era, in the post Karl Malone world. Good scorers just get to the line a lot. The Nuggets got to the line way more than the Clippers. I mean, I guess I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but as I would look through it each game, it felt like in just about every game they
Yeah.
were there more. So
Mhm.
they need to emphasize putting pressure on the OKC defense, even though the OKC defense certainly can pressure them. But I think that you have to be aware of it. It's just one of those things that you can't let it bog you down, if you will. And so I think
Right.
that you need to pay attention to it, but you can't get caught up in what the refs are doing. We know Joker certainly can get aggravated. Every star player does to some degree, I think. And it's a different crew every game too. So some crews are going to be more favorable to a home team. Some crews are going to be more favorable to a star. They're going to give more leeway for superstars. And so I think in general, though, you just have to do what you can to mitigate SGA's ability to get the obvious calls, and then hope that ticky-tack calls just aren't the whistle isn't blown on either team, because we know that certainly Joker gets fouled on every possession just about. So if SGA is going to the line, you hope Joker's going as much, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
If SGA is not going very much, then you're okay if Joker is also, if they're letting him play, if you will.
Absolutely. Last thing for you, BK. Prediction tonight. Who's taking game one? I actually already gave my prediction and said that I do think this could be kind of a messy game for the Nuggets, where they're tired, OKC's not. There's some sloppy turnovers. There's some missed shots. The defense isn't as tight. And then we see a lot of that adjusting come game two, where the Nuggets kind of tighten things up and figure things out. So it's the head versus heart. My heart says Nuggets take it because they've got the momentum and I love them and they're talented, blah, blah, blah. Brain says OKC in game one, and then the Nuggets find a way to keep themselves alive and really make some serious adjustments in game two. But what do you think about game one?
Well, we've certainly seen road teams go and steal game ones in every round of a series kind of throughout history. You need some really big ones, like the Sixers won game one, although that might have been at home now that I think about it, in Philly, when they beat the Lakers with AI in them. But just let's look at this weekend. Let's look at yesterday. And Cleveland comes in, best record in the East. They've been rolling. Indiana had a tough, hard-fought series against the Bucks, but a little more momentum. Now they both had a little bit of a break because of when the Bucks collapsed the other night. Nonetheless, they showed that they could go on the road and take care of business. So the Nuggets, assuming that they feel well enough and they have enough rest, and I say feel well enough, but have the energy necessary to deal with a team that's nonstop like this, that has just been chilling since a week ago Saturday. Although Joker pointed out, I'm sure they're playing games and trying to stay as into it as they can. It's still, you can't mimic games no matter how hard your two teams try against each other, and you're not going to practice that long at that level, because it just doesn't make any sense to, even if they played a full scrimmage, it still wouldn't be the exact same. And so I think that the Nuggets have a chance to steal it tonight. But your point about the adjustments, and we've seen, they lost to him in the opener. A couple weeks later without Jamal, beat him in game two. Then they played the two games here back-to-back days in early March, that Sunday and Monday. Lost a hard-fought game on Sunday where it kind of got away from him at the end in terms of the score, but it was much closer. And then they come back Monday night and win that game. So we know that they've been able to adjust and figure out what works when they've seen his team a second time, or a fourth time, I guess, in this case, second and fourth. But OKC also can make adjustments. And in all those back-to-backs, it's not like they were really playing the same teams back-to-back, although they did it with Memphis early in the year. No Joker, no Ja. They won that second game as well. So I think that there may be something to that even if they lose tonight, I think what we need to probably prepare ourselves for, so if you're betting on this game, and 10.5 seems like a lot, is that if they're sitting there and just can't, they fall down double digits and just can't get over that hump, whether it's down 20 going into the fourth, or down 18 or 15 and not able to really chip away at it in this 6-minute mark, 8-minute mark, especially if Joker's out there just to get, out on the bench in that spot, shutting it down, waving the white towel tonight to just try to recover and be ready to go for game two here on Wednesday. So that's where it'd be tricky, because you think if they play the game all the way through and the starters are in 10.5, it's up to 10.5 now. I just looked at FanDuel Sportsbook. I think seems crazy in the second round of the playoffs, but maybe they're banking on the Nuggets fatigue and OKC's rest, and the idea that if the game gets out of hand, Adam will shut everybody down and it'll be a 20-point win. So something to think about. If you don't think you're going to win, the game tonight, I would be inclined to bet the Thunder to cover if that makes sense. Like, I don't think the
Yeah,
Thunder are going to beat them at the buzzer, although they might. It might be a 112, 110 win, but it
yeah.
feels like that fatigue could potentially play a factor, especially with knowing the Nuggets try to manage that throughout the whole series.
Absolutely. Well, BK, thank you so much. And you will be bringing us all things Nuggets game tonight from OKC. We've got you out there representing Guerrilla Sports and getting us everything that we need. So we appreciate that. And then hopefully I'll have you in studio with me on Thursday. We can preview at that point the first home game of the season, which is game 3 on Friday. So
Of the
hopefully we'll
series,
have a lot
of
to
the
talk
series.
about. Yes, of the series.
Yeah.
Hopefully we have a lot to talk about, and it's
Oh, we
all
will.
relatively positive for the Denver
Well,
Nuggets, but if it's not, it's fine.
yeah, and I'll join you post game, but now we've got a few hours. We've got 6 hours till tip off, so it's Cinco de Mayo. We're gonna go drink a bunch of margaritas. Jason and I are gonna go check out all the margarita spots here
There you go.
in downtown OKC.
Celebrate Cinco de Mayo.
I think we celebrate it more in America than they do in Mexico, but that's
I'm sure
another
we do.
conversation.
I'm sure
So
we do.
Feliz el Cinco de Mayo, and I will catch you post game where hopefully we're talking about a Nuggets win.
Hopefully, we'll see you then, BK. Thank you so much, and happy Cinco de Mayo.
Thanks. Bye, Liv.
All right, you guys. I think that does it for today's episode of Guerrilla Sports Off Court. We have got a post-game live reaction show for you tonight following game 1 of round 2. And like I said, we have maintained all season long being realistic and honest about this team and where they stand. And right now, based on what you saw in game 7, we just take it one game at a time. And the last time we watched them play, I don't know if you guys watched the show Dance Moms, but Abby Lee Miller said, "You're only as good as your last performance." Well, based on their last performance, the Denver Nuggets are a stinking good basketball team and have a lot of things that they should be excited about. So, given game 7 and the last time that we watched them play, I think we should be very excited about game 1. Of course, if you get to the nitty gritties of it all, the rest advantage OKC has, the fact that they're young, all of these things combined, of course there's concerns. OKC is a good basketball team. I don't think many teams in the NBA want to face off with OKC, but let me leave you with this. OKC is the best team in the Western Conference that the Nuggets would have to face. I don't necessarily think they are the best matchup. I don't worry as much about this matchup as I would the Timberwolves. I think if you're OKC, you're feeling good about the two teams and the talent that they have, but the matchup itself, I wouldn't say is the most threatening or terrifying to me personally. So I'm not saying that the Nuggets are going to win tonight or win the series, but I am saying I think they have a pretty stinking good chance, and I don't think this will be easy for either team that does win it and heads on to the Western Conference Finals. So just a thought. Keep it in mind. Go Nuggets. And of course, we will keep you posted on all things post-game following the game. And oh my gosh, I forgot to mention our friends over at Accurate America. Storms are on their way. You're going to get hail. You're going to get roof damage. Make sure you call before the storm. Okay? Call 303-900-ROOF before the storm. They will help you navigating with your insurance, provide you professional, knowledgeable, guidance basically and help with the latest 3D technology to get you your roof fixed. Don't go after one of those storm chasing roofers that will come through the neighborhood once the storms have already hit. Again, call before the storm, 303-900-ROOF. Accurate America, experts in roofing and exteriors. So thank you guys so much. This has been presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Shout out to our friends over there as well for all that they do in helping people save money. I'm Liv Moods signing off for now, but we will see you tonight following game 1, round 2 for a post-game live reaction show. See ya.